Welcome back, and it's time for us to work on the jQuery UI Accordion widget. We'll start us off with just having a little bit of copy in our application by having basically a title, some text, title text, title text, and we want to turn that into an accordion. So let's look into our code and get started. In our text editor, if we scroll down to our area, we'll see that we have a div layer, which is called topics. It has an ID of topic, and in it, literally, we have an h2 tag, then a paragraph, an h2 tag, then a paragraph, and so on and so forth. Very, very organized, very simple. Now, let's try to turn that into an accordion, and we'll do the exact same thing as we did with all the other components. Literally, we just want to approach that specific element, that ID topics, and we want to tell it that it's going to be an accordion. Not with an uppercase A, lowercase. Make sure that that's right. Open, close bracket, and save. And all that's left is for us to click on refresh, and we just got ourselves an accordion. So simple, we did that in literally a couple of seconds. So that worked really well, and we have an accordion, and it's working. But there might be scenarios, and this is the only thing I want to say about accordion, which is really, really important. In a real live application, when you're working on it, you might get a scenario where actually your titles and your copy is not that organized, and you can't change it. Let's say, for example, your content is inside of a div layer, and that div layer, just to prepare ourselves to the next video, so I'm going to give these div layers IDs. So let's give me this an ID of topic 1, and we're going to do the same thing. Basically, we're going to break this down into separate different div layers, because that's just the scenario that we're in. It was in different layers, and how do you deal with it? How do you make sure that the accordion will work? Because the accordion by default won't know how to fetch the titles, because it will think that the whole cluster, it could get confused. So let's see basically what will happen once I take all this copy, and I basically created 3 different div layers separating all these components, saving it, clicking on the refresh file, and what basically will happen is the component gets confused. It gets confused, and it thinks that all the content within the first thing it sees is a title, and so on and so forth, and that's obviously not what we want it to do. So we want to force jQuery UI to do it differently. To do that, we'll have to go into our component and add an option. So in the object, I'm going to add an option that's called header. And in the header itself, I'm basically going to tell it, what do I want to change? I want to tell it what is specifically the header. To tell it what specifically is the header, I'm going to say to it inside of it's going to be a div layer, and in it, we're going to have an h2 tag. And that's literally all I had to do to tell jQuery UI, I want this to be my title. And jQuery UI will be smart enough to figure out then what the body is. So if I click on it again, you'll see that now it finds the right content and it breaks it down the way I want it to be. And that's literally the most important thing you need to know about the accordion. All the rest you could find in the documentation. It's very intuitive, very simple to play with, and you're always welcome to ask me any question you have. You could find me on Twitter at 0togeek. That's about it. So let's move on to the next topic.